It is, what day is it? September
Tuesday.
6th. Tuesday. It's been an eventful couple days in wrestling, and this is the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Alfred Konuwa. Issa can't be here tonight, but she sent her regards. She when we reached for comment, she had this to say.
What?
And just wanted to let us know that she's here in spirit tonight with us.
From the source. Look at that journalism.
Yeah.
What?
So,
those are true words have never been spoken.
NXT aired tonight, NXT 2.0. Tough night in the world of wrestling. We had so much wrestling this weekend, including Worlds Collide, a pay-per-view where, man, they really told you how much NXT UK mattered, depending on looking at how those those belts unifying turned out. That happened in between Clash of the Castle, which was very eventful. Happened between All Out, which was very eventful. Happened the All Out media scrum, and which was very eventful. Monday Night Raw last night, which was very eventful. And when Reach for comment, Tony Khan had this to say.
I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.
So,
now, was he alone when he said that, or was he with CM Punk? Which version of Tony Khan was that?
You just call his phone, and it just gives you the message. That's his comment. So, it's where we're at right now.
That is absolutely where. Well, let's get into it. There's really not much news to report, so let's just get into NXT 2.0. We started with. No, I'm just kidding. I'm only kidding. You want to get into it, Glenn? You want to talk about this stuff?
I think we got to talk. I mean, it's tough, right? Like, this was a very tough night for NXT 2.0 to go on the air because they got the 1-year anniversary next week. We're post Worlds Collide, pre NXT UK. NXT 2.0 right now is really well poised for a nice soft reboot.
NXT Europe.
Yeah, and NXT Europe is gonna have a hard reboot, but I'm saying that NXT 2.0, like, we can kind of shake out the cobwebs. Okay, tumultuous summer. Get some eyeballs, new people in charge. Perhaps it's New Day. Yes, it is behind the scenes at WWE. Like, now, out with the old, in with the new. Chance to turn some things around, and then they had to go on in the shadow of this.
Yeah, and it's funny because you said out with the old, and that's what a lot of people want when it comes to the 43-year-old CM Punk, because he is at the center of this news that we keep hinting toward, as all these stories today kept coming out in terms of what exactly happened during that backstage brawl after the AEW All Out Media Scrum. T.O. Punk, Terrell Owens Punk, the T.O. of professional wrestling, the Kanye West of professional wrestling, CM Punk, went nuclear. I think everybody in the wrestling world has seen it to this day. And today, a lot of people piecing together of what happened in terms of this fight. Two sides of the story did come out. So it seems from the Young Bucks camp, what we have heard, according to reports, is that CM Punk was the one who started it. CM Punk is the one who started throwing hands at Matt Jackson. Nick Jackson was hit in the face with a steel chair, more specifically in the eye by Ace Steel. That is what this report said. And Ace Steel and Kenny Omega got into it. With Kenny Omega, his hair was pulled and he was bit by Ace Steel. Now, the CM Punk camp has also come out with their version of the report, kind of similar to this report. The camp is admitting that a chair was thrown to Nick Jackson and it hit him in the eye. And I believe Nick Jackson suffered a black eye, which might be at the center of some legal drama if it gets to that point, if and when. But the Punk version, the biggest difference, people in the CM Punk camp are saying that the Young Bucks kicked in the door, waving the 4-4. Okay, not the 4-4 part, but they did kick in the door according to the CM Punk camp. Young Bucks were presented as the aggressors according to this side of the story, and Ace Steel was presented as somebody who was just looking out for his wife, who was in the room, nursing a broken foot. His dog Larry was in the room, and it was said that Ace Steel did indeed throw a chair, hitting Nick Jackson. That seems to be the most consistent part of the story, is poor Nick Jackson. It was described as a long fight, not just some fisticuffs brawl that was quickly broken up, a very long fight, basically an AEW insurrection, right down to a vice president's life being in danger here with AEW versus CM Punk. And this thing has really degenerated in terms of now there's a lot of legal drama. Warner Brothers Discovery might have to be involved in this. There might be lawsuits. People don't know who's going to get suspended, who's going to get fired. I don't know if we're going to expect an announcement tomorrow. It's not expected that any of these guys, whether it's the Elite, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, or CM Punk, the new AEW World Champion, we're not expecting them on Dynamite tomorrow. And oh, by the way, to throw another monkey wrench into this whole thing, CM Punk is said to have suffered a pretty serious injury, possibly during his match against Jon Moxley. The rumor right now is that it might have been a torn bicep, but we don't know that yet. A lot to unpack here. Glenn, help us sort it out. Start us off. What do you think about this whole mess?
When in the hell did AEW turn into Death Row Records? Like, this is insane. That first off, you got some people, I don't care if their title of, executive vice president is a notch above world's greatest grandpa in terms of legitimacy. You've got people that have contracts with the companies that help form the company. And I don't care who started it. Like, how in the hell did this is professional wrestling. You don't hear Backstage at Hamilton, like, Lin-Manuel and Burr got drama behind the scenes. Like, you are professionals. You go on, you perform a show behind, like, you're about making money. And that's the only part of me that makes me believe this is an elaborate work. The only part of me that makes me believe that is because the MJF situation was so successful and how that turned around. But then secondly, because how does this happen at any workplace? How does this happen in any, this is nuts. People work together, they're millionaires.
It's 100% not a work. It's funny you say it's professional wrestling. I put professional wrestling one and the same, those both categories. I don't isolate the professional. Professional wrestling is exactly what you're seeing right now. These crazy egomaniacs fighting each other over booking, over storylines, over dirt sheet. This is a circus that we are in. And one of the reasons I think it's gotten to this is because AEW has leaned too much into the professional wrestling zeitgeist, which does cater to the internet, does cater to the dirt sheet. Part of this problem and why CM Punk went off to begin with was him feeling that the Young Bucks were leaking stories to the dirt sheet to get these indie wrestling hardcore fans to turn against him. And then this degenerated into the mess that we are in right now.
This is insane. In professional sports teams, and this is where it's on Tony Khan, because do you think the owner of any NFL, do you think Tony would stand for this if the Jacksonville Jaguars had this going on?
It's funny you say that because last season was a pretty similar disaster where they had Urban Meyer as their head coach, one of the worst head coaching experiences in the history of the NFL. He got caught up in all kinds of personal drama of hitting on a girl at a bar and cheating on his wife allegedly. And there was it was a disaster of the season last year. So to compare this to the Jacksonville Jaguars might actually make AEW look good.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in what other situation when you have this much money going around, this much success, how big is your ego? And I didn't watch all of the scrum, but where's All Shucks Phil from a year ago? Just happy to be there, part of the team, supporting everything. He was barely even asked a question, and then just started going on about Colt Cabana's bank account situation and shooting on things. It's just dude, you just repaired your reputation for perhaps having a bit of an ego and being a bit abrasive and difficult to work with, and came back to give the warm fuzzies to everybody with your AEW return. And it's what are you hoping to gain with, you're the fucking champion. I don't care if you're the heel champion, even in the heels. I'm trying to think, heels don't even do this. Could you imagine Roman Reigns being out there and Drew McIntyre shares a bank account with his mom? And not because he set it up in her name to take care of her bills. He's living in her basement. This is just careless. This is remarkably negligent that Tony Khan is so enamored with some of these names he's signing that he's not trying to rein them in at all.
Yes, and that is another dynamic of this story that I'm glad you brought up. Tony Khan, he goes on Twitter and he's woofing, and we make light of Tony Twitter fingers, and he's talking all this stuff. And then you see this version of Tony Khan sitting next to one of his biggest stars, arguably his biggest star, who was just running amok. And Tony Khan was powerless to stop this. He was sitting there
Khan looks like he needs a nap.
He looked like Mike Tyson during that Robin Givens interview, just not saying anything, not defending himself, not defending the company, not defending any of these stars who are doing anything, letting this train go off the track and sitting there quietly. And every narrative that people push about Tony Khan being more of a fan than an owner, he had a chance to quell that, and he didn't do that at all. In fact, on Pro Wrestling Bits, we are going to have an operation on Tony Khan later tonight, showing all the ways we need to make him into a better leader. We're even going to give him a spine because Tony Khan had a very bad night, and CM Punk running amok like this. Listen, when it comes to what's going to happen, what's the fallout, me personally, they got to fire CM Punk, period, end of story, full stop. I mean, CM Punk has got to go. He's got to go. Is this what he pulled? And you talked about barely asking a question. Shout out to Nick Hausman, who really didn't even ask a question. CM Punk targeted Nick Hausman, hoping that Nick Hausman was going to reveal that he's friends with Colt Cabana, so that CM Punk could go after Nick Hausman and talk about how he's being.
What was the opening question? Because I always see when
there was no opening question. The opening question was CM Punk sat down and Tony Khan asked for the questions, and Nick Hausman stood up, and then CM Punk said, "Oh no, I got a question for you, Nick. Aren't you friends with Colt Cabana?" Or that exchange they had. He found out that Nick Hausman isn't friends with Colt Cabana anymore. But then he made his point anyway and just buried Colt Cabana, buried the Young Bucks, buried Hangman Adam Page. And the problem for Tony Khan here is, yes, CM Punk is his biggest draw. That is true. CM Punk draws a lot of money for AEW. It is a short-term scenario. You look at CM Punk, he's 43 years old. He is a physical and emotional ticking time bomb for AEW. His body's breaking down. He might be hurt again. He couldn't defend the title last time. And on top of that, he's a malcontent. He's somebody who's not happy right now, who has a history of doing this. Even when he's given the world, gets a match with The Undertaker, gets to be champion for 400 plus days, still complains, and now he's here in AEW, hates the Elite, hates Hangman, hates Colt Cabana. At some point, there's an old saying, if everybody else in the room is an asshole, you're the asshole. So CM Punk just falling out with everybody. And if Tony Khan was to side with CM Punk, which I think is the least likely scenario, that Tony Khan says, okay, I'm going to side with CM Punk, I'm going to let the Elite walk. I mean, you're probably going to lose the Elite. You're going to lose Hangman Adam Page. There's probably going to be lawsuits left and right. The locker room's going to be upset. Fans are going to turn on AEW. And you hitching your wagon to CM Punk because of, financial reasons is going to go away very, very quickly. So I think CM Punk has just got to go. They've got to fire CM Punk. He's pulled this before. He's doing it again. And it's completely from the inside out, I think, really uploading this locker room. I mean, Tony Khan had a meeting with his talent to prevent this very scenario. And it really kind of is an indictment on Tony Khan's leadership abilities that he didn't address this big problem that has now gotten us into this situation, and that he did have this meeting, and it seems that the talent is just like, yeah, whatever, Tony, we're going to go and fight on Sunday. So this is a whole mess that Tony Khan needs to sort out, and I don't think it is tenable for all parties to exist together and to play kumbaya, because if you do that, it's going to be another brawl.
I've been the best ever since day one when I walked into this company, and I've been vilified and hated since that day.
Hard to believe that guy. Hard to believe that guy would have conflict with anybody. No, look, I'm just waiting for Brock Lesnar to, face that fine suspension for popping that urine test a couple of years ago. Waiting for the Uso, to get a slap on the wrist. Jeff Hardy, the consequences. This is professional wrestling, man. Yeah. Like, look, but here's the truth about CM Punk. The truth about CM Punk's situation. He stays long enough to put MJF over. Tony Khan has probably got the majority of his value out of CM Punk and could cut ties, and AEW will be fine.
I think he already has. $3 million houses in a row. We've done this for 3 years. Listen, CM Punk is cocaine. It lasts for a short time and it goes away. This is a 1-year cocaine trip. That's all you could ever hope for from cocaine. Not that I've ever done it, and I don't condone it, and I don't think anybody should do it. I think it's a horrible drug. But if we are going to compare people to drugs, CM Punk is cocaine that burns out after a quick hot run, and that's happened now. It's time to cut bait with CM Punk. Get rid of this guy. He's down to his last two friends, and it's Ace Steel and his dog. Like, and his dog even tried to run away from him. I heard the dog try to get loose at the beginning of All Out. It's over. Like, get rid of this guy. That's the solution. Tony Khan has tried to play kumbaya. He tried to have the backstage meeting. Let's all get along. They unfortunately don't seem to respect him enough to do that. So now you got to put your hand down. You've got to rule. You've got to lead and make tough decisions. And CM Punk has to go. It's time for him to go. He's a Terrell Owens of professional wrestling. T.O. Punk has to go. He's destroying one locker room after another. This is what he does. And the fact that they took a chance on him, it did seem like it was going to work out fantastically that first 6 months. And the numbers were very good and continue to be pretty good for AEW and CM Punk there. But it's not worth what I think would be disastrous long-term ramifications if CM Punk hung around that locker room.
That being said, okay, counterpoint. The Elite and Kenny Omega, like the Bucks, Kenny Omega, the Elite, have created such an insular environment that's so inside that any outsider, I could see any top talent they bring in with pull probably is going to have an issue and suspicion and paranoia and regard. Like, there's going to be friction almost, because it's kind of like when the NWO was running things at WCW. It's like you're either in that circle.
Yeah.
What was that episode of The Office? Like, if you're not in the inner circle, you're in the outer circle.
Right.
You know. And I think that is a bad environment. I mean, maybe this is why you can't have player coaches. This is why you can't have wrestler executives. Like, you're going to create a scenario where you're going to be the victim of animosity, of resentment, feeling like you're always putting yourself and your friends over. Like, Tony is trying to do this in a different way, and maybe even being buddy with the talent has displayed like a lack of authority on his part. Because do you think Kenny Omega and the Bucks are afraid of Tony?
Not a chance.
Yeah, and that's a problem too, right? Because if you have no fear that if you go into any job and you're like, my boss can't fire me, like, maybe day one, that doesn't mean you're gonna go on a tirade and do something fireable, but over time you're going to behave in a way that creates a negative work environment.
100%. And you mentioned how the inner circle, the outer circle, all that crap needs to go away. And Tony Khan can make that happen. There shouldn't be an inner circle. There shouldn't be an outer circle. It should be Tony Khan and everybody else. Whatever decision Tony Khan makes, if he sides with the Elite or, God forbid, sides with CM Punk, he needs to say, okay, I'm siding with you, but you are not my equal. You and I are not working together. I'm paying you MFers. You work under me. I'm going to make the decisions around here. And what I say goes. He needs to develop a spine. He needs to turn those Twitter fingers into an iron fist, ball those Twitter fingers up into an iron fist, and he needs to rule. It needs to be his show. Whatever decision he makes moving forward, he needs to make it quite clear that there are consequences for your actions. And these wrestlers cannot run amok, because what's happening now with his AEW locker room is a very delicate ground to play. And I mean, if he continues this way and he lets the inmates run the asylum, it's really not going to be good for AEW, and not only AEW, because now we're talking about legal issues. We're talking about money being like, Nick Jackson might have grounds for a legitimate lawsuit that will cost Warner Brothers Discovery money. That's very serious, considering they're trying to cut ties with anything that's costing them money. And you look at Warner Brothers Discovery, I'm an executive. I see this crazy person, CM Punk, and the history he has, and he's destroying another locker room. And I say, I'm not paying you guys a damn dime if this guy is going to be there. That is a huge risk to pay them. If I'm the Now Arena and the security is breaking up this long insurrection, I don't want AEW in my freaking building. Go somewhere else. Take that shit to UFC or somewhere else. So there's a lot of ramifications that I think Tony Khan needs to think about when he's deciding whether or not he needs to side with CM Punk. He needs to act
like a CEO and stop putting himself over. And, you know,
I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.
Who like, he, you know what the problem is that he thinks he's like Elon Musk, and he's got so much money that he can just like swing his dick everywhere. You're not like Elon Musk did. I'm talking ego wise, not like
not literally swinging.
Not literally, but I'm saying that he could go in there and be like, I'm dictating. And dude, like, I know you're a high achiever. I know you're a high performer. I know you got a lot going on. Get some fucking rest. Like, he looked like he'd been up for 3 days straight at that scrum. And I get that this is stressful. He's got to take care of himself. Like, this is very, I mean, this is just unhealthy mentally and physically. And in fact, here's how crazy it is. Part of me is like, maybe Chris Jericho can kind of like mediate this situation. Chris Jericho's got a pretty good head on his shoulders, at least when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think Jericho actually could probably simmer the tensions and play
Sure.
peacemaker.
Voice of reason, locker room leader, somebody familiar with both sides on a deep level. And it's funny you play that clip of Tony Khan. That is emblematic of the Tony Khan problem. Is he's sitting there with CM Punk for 20 minutes, letting CM Punk run the show. CM Punk's cutting him off. CM Punk's big leaguing him. No authority whatsoever. And then when CM Punk leaves and he's by himself, now it's time to be Tony Tough Guy. Now I'm not taking any of this fucking shit.
No,
Like,
honestly,
this is a Tony Khan problem.
Not the look of the man or stature, but their attitude. It's like he thinks he's Suge Knight and Punk is Tupac, and they're just out there just firing shots and making enemies. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, Punk should have just spit in the camera and started saying "Thug Life" again and again.
I mean, that's the only part missing from this. That, and, a drive-by maybe.
I mean, but this isn't. But it's within their own company. That's the crazier shit. This isn't about like, oh, they ran into some WWE guys at Waffle House and shit got real. It was like, this is your own company. You know?
Yeah, it's really bad situation. It's something that had been building, something that, again, it's on Tony Khan in terms of trying to avert this, but he didn't do too good of a job of that at any point. And now it's gotten to a point where the rubber has met the road, and this is going to draw out. I don't think we're going to get a hard resolution on Wednesday as to what's happening. Maybe there'll be an announcement that all these titles are stripped and we're started from scratch. But this is a very, very serious situation for AEW and all these people. And I always think they're crazy who try to push this narrative of AEW is going out of business or going out of business. Every time something bad happens for AEW, it's going out of business, which I never believe. But I will say this. Tony Khan hitches his wagon to CM Punk. There is a pathway to this company going under. And he just needs to cut the cancer. You're doing an operation. Do you want to cut the cancer out of the patient or do you want to cut the patient's throat? Because that's essentially what his decisions are going to be. And I just think he needs to take control of the situation. Whatever his decision is, he needs to take control and get whatever is left of his authority back.
Well, Death Row just let it ride, and that all worked out well for everyone.
Yeah, look what happened to them. Look what happened to a lot of people associated with them. I think they have the blueprint on how not to handle a situation like this.
Probably. It's crazy. So we got some super chats because people have opinions.
Woo!
Okay, I'm going to go reverse order here. Hops88, $5. When Punk returned to wrestling, I was elated. Now he has to go. He's destroying AEW. And if he stays AEW, will cease to exist a year from now.
I don't disagree with that. I don't want to push the AEW going out of business narrative. I think they're doing quite good. But I will say that him leaving would create, or him staying even, would create a ripple effect where you're sending the wrong message to the locker room. More people will probably want to force themselves out of that contract. CM Punk, he's got about a year. This is what he does. He'll be somewhere for a year, maybe a little bit longer. And then it'll just kind of start to implode and melt down on him. Despite whatever success he has, he just can't help himself in these situations. And this is happening again.
Well, it's interesting, too, because CM Punk's failure to grow the fan base in AEW, and AEW diehard fans don't think I'm like shitting on AEW when I say this. I'm just saying CM Punk's failure to grow the fan base and expand it means that all of the million people watching it are the down since day ones who are fans of the Bucks, Omega, Hangman. They're going to side with them. Mm-hmm. So if Punk's not there to make you money and get more eyeballs on the product and create a better product, if they turn, TK's got to listen to them.
Exactly. And that's the thing is if TK took CM Punk, he would be favoring money and drawing money over whatever problems
there could be a backlash.
The locker room. But you're not drawing money moving forward because I think the Bucks walk. I think Hangman walks. I think Kenny walks. I think a lot of people in support of them try to walk. I think there's going to be lawsuits and it's going to just get even worse. You're going to lose money as Tony Khan if you choose CM Punk over the Young Bucks and Hangman and Page in the Elite.
Kelvin Alexander, Shad Khan needs to fire Tony. I mean, Shad doesn't own the company, right? I mean, you can fire him from the Jaguars.
I believe it is his money. I mean, it's probably Tony Khan's allowance money, but in the grand scheme of things, if we're, splitting hairs here, I believe it is Shad Khan's company, but it's under Tony Khan's name. He owns AEW and ROH.
Yeah. I could see Tony Khan. I don't think he would ever shut it down, but I could see him deciding to step away if he's just if somebody says to him, like, look, this is making you look like an asshole, this is taking up all your time and drama, I could see his father saying, if you want to keep working with Jacksonville, and don't they own a football club also in the UK, saying that if you want to do this, you need to hire somebody else to run AEW. You could still have a role, but you cannot do this day to day anymore. This is hurting your reputation and ability to function.
What I think will actually happen is that Tony Schiavone, rather, is a name that's been thrown around in terms of somebody who the Warner Brothers Discovery executives really like, somebody who obviously has a lot of wrestling experience, has experience on a sinking ship in WCW, so knows, what a crisis looks like and possibly could help Tony Khan figure out how to avoid it. And I'm hearing Tony Schiavone is going to start to gain a lot more power within AEW as Tony Khan's confidant and somebody who could help mentor Tony Khan through a time like this. So I do think that pairing Tony Schiavone with Tony Khan and having him help him through this is going to be something that would help everybody.
And I'm saying if you can navigate helping to manage a Starbucks, I think you are primed for a high stress environment. Do you know the drama that goes on at your average Starbucks? It's always like that asshole talking shit about me. People are complaining about their schedules. You got to feel like, and I'm not saying this to put down people I'm saying seriously, do you think what real world experience do you think TK has having to deal with like regular folk?
Yeah.
And managing that high stress environment.
Decide between playing Jason Mraz or Jack Johnson. Caramel macchiato is no joke. Like Starbucks is some real stuff. Tony Schiavone has that experience, and Tony Khan needs to look into it.
Really go on. A lot more about the drama of managing a coffee house. House of Tug Pubs, this podcast is drink and use profanity or bad. I just want to make it clear, I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm drinking Hoplark Citra hops. It's a sparkling water that's brewed like beer with hops. They make a tea version and a non-tea version. I am hooked on this stuff because it's got the texture and like flavor of a beer, but no alcohol.
And I am drinking Modern Times root beer. It was the coldest drink during a heat wave that I could find in my refrigerator. And I'm all fired up about CM Punk, so I decided to have a Modern Times very delicious sour beer. Root beer.
And as for the profanity, well,
I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.
You tell him, Tony. You tell him while you're by yourself at that podium.
Stellar Justin Lopez, $4.99. This is all on TK. He tries too hard to be their friends out there smoking weed and partying with them. Allegedly, it's not show friends, it's show business.
Yeah. It's become such a mockery of him. It made it to TV where MJF even said all friends wrestling. That shit's got to go. You cannot be friends with all these guys. I think AEW leaning into that, smart mark territory. That's a lot of Tony Khan's fandom showing. And he's got to just step back and be their boss and not try to be their friend. Don't go to their weddings. Stop smoking weed with them allegedly. Just smoke weed by yourself and rule with an iron fist.
Yes. More super chats coming in. Steve Marcuccioli, $1.99. Can you imagine what Cody thinks?
It's funny. One of the reasons a couple of weeks ago I came up why AEW is cooling down. One of the big reasons I said was on Pro Wrestling Bits on YouTube is because Cody. Cody is one of the big reasons. Him leaving, he always felt like the adult in the room, and him leaving. I think since the day he left, the locker room morale went down, 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 down. Now it's degenerated into anarchy. And Cody even tweeted. God tweeted a picture. Very cryptic of him smoking a cigar quite confidently, as if to say, motherfuckers, I saw this shit coming. It's like when Cody Rhodes left AEW, it's like daddy's gone and now Uncle Tony's in charge. And uncles don't make the best babysitters, as we're seeing right now.
John Jordan, $5. TK getting emasculated publicly like that without recourse is beyond brutal. How anyone in the back could have any respect left after that's beyond me.
100%, especially, that optic alone, it fed so many. I'm one of these people who've had a narrative or had a thought that I don't think Tony Khan is enough of an authority figure with these guys sometimes. And this blew that whole thing wide open. This is the worst possible way he could have handled this in the moment for that perception of Tony Khan just being somebody who wants to be friends with everybody. And I just think he's got a lot of damage control to do in his locker room and with his own public image.
Yeah. Malik Black, $5. Tony should suspend all involved in the fight, strip them of all the titles too, unless they get everything under control. He can't let it slide. I think it would be very Solomon-esque of him to punish everyone. I guess he kind of has to, right? You can't fire Punk and be like, elite for life, and just
right.
You can't do that.
Exactly. And that should be part of him establishing his authority is that, okay, I'm going to choose who I'm going to ride with long-term, but that doesn't mean you're getting off the hook. You need to establish a pattern that you're the boss. And I do think they should be suspended. I think everybody who got involved in this, because of the ramifications, because there are now going to be legal drama, this is not just your garden variety backstage wrestling fight. This is something that is seen as kind of to criminal proportions, which shout out to AEW or the police or whoever is treating this like it is a criminal situation, the way it would be treated if, say, this was Will Hobbs and Keith Lee getting fired. They might still be in jail if that was the case. But shout out to AEW for keeping the same energy and treating this like the legal situation, like the criminal situation. It really is. They got into what sounds like a very ugly brawl, and I think a lot of people are going to have to suffer for it.
It's weird, too, because Punk's not in a feud with Paige. And say what you will about WWE, but it's like, I mean, you don't see wrestlers, and now since WWE's opened up their media so much, you don't see WWE superstars taking shots at other wrestlers they're not in a feud with.
That's that authority. We'll see over the next 5 years, but even with Triple H is an authority figure. One of his nicknames is Papa H, which is a nod to the fact that he's like a father figure to a lot of people. A lot of people don't see his Triple H as just their friend, and the people who do are his peers who are legends who are out of the business. So even with Triple H, it's not like Uncle Paul's in charge. It's not like your buddy Paul is in charge. He's still an authority figure. And we're not far removed from Vince McMahon, where people, I mean, you would not see something like this in terms of even on Twitter, people going that hard against each other because there are ramifications. And part of that is that authority that exists in WWE.
Do you think with WWE, there have been enough instances, and I'm even thinking about the way they severed ties with Punk, the way they showed with Daniel Bryan, like you are stuck here for the duration of your contract and time we had, and even things like Enzo. Do you think enough people in WWE have been made an example of that's part of the reason why everybody keeps it like more low key, whereas in AEW, like there hasn't been an instance of like a high profiling, like zero tolerance cut?
Sure. We could even go back to Bret Hart. And I don't think enough people will ever get, because obviously you're always going to have people who die on their sword, who stand up for what they believe in. Sasha Banks and Naomi is a great example of, despite WWE's environment of authoritarianism, they decided they were going to walk. So you're still going to probably see that in wrestling. However, in WWE, there was such an air of authority that you're not going to see that too much, because they know there's going to be immediate repercussions. And it's not just the Vince McMahon angle. It's the angle that WWE is a publicly traded company and a business, and they don't want any type of bad publicity that can affect their stock price. So if something like this happened, you get cut immediately.
Could you imagine if WWE hadn't gone public 20 some odd years ago?
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't be worth billions of dollars that they are now, but, you know, we might have more backstage brawls.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this is all just very crazy. This is very, very crazy.
It's crazy, and it's the thing that fascinates me the most about this now, and who knows what's going to happen between now and the next time we speak. But it's a tale of two world champions now in AEW. It's in AEW and WWE, because Roman Reigns is your WWE World Champion. But wrestling doesn't feel any faker to me than when he's defending that title from here until WrestleMania, because there's this perception that it's like, oh, he can only lose it at WrestleMania. He can only lose it to Cody or The Rock. He can only lose it when the lighting is perfect and everybody's periods are synced up and everything is just absolutely 100% in the right place. He's not losing that title to Kevin Owens. He's not losing to Seth Rollins or Karrion Kross or Braun Strowman. So the next 7 months are going to be predictable. He's not losing a Butch. The next 7 months of Roman Reigns, predictable. Wake me up at WrestleMania. Who cares? But CM Punk, on the other hand, that's the most unpredictable champion in wrestling right now. Like, the next time he defends that title, if there is a next time, it might devolve into a shoot. He might lose it immediately. He might never be able to defend that title.
Okay, CM Punk devolving into a shoot. We remember his UFC career. That
might give them, listen, it's not like they respect Tony Khan enough, so they might say, listen, I saw that guy fight in UFC. I'm going to shoot on him for this world title. If it's fucking Hangman on a page, it will be interesting for all the wrong reasons, just like Roman Reigns is predictable for all the wrong reasons.
CM Punk's like, okay, so I'm not facing Jake Hager anytime soon. Like, he's got like a list of people where he's like, nope, they can actually fight. Like,
I don't want that shooter. I don't want that. He's going to just fight Nick Jackson. That's this thing. He's going to fight Nick Jackson for that title with a black eye.
Yeah. Wow. So NXT had to go on tonight.
Yeah, to follow that.
Yeah. As Delon. Ooh, I love that. Makes me think the band. Delon Prada. Canadian $6.99. We're getting an interim women's champ, trios champ, and world champ, aren't we? All interim wrestling.
I mean, they're just trying to keep the same energy. I get it, because CM Punk got an interim treatment, so now Thunder Rosa is getting interim treatment. But it's funny because AEW already has a problem with too many belts. And now, in addition to all the belts they already have, they've got interim championships as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Bear Hudson saying people that have fired some shots at Alfred.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I love these people. As long as they spell my name right, @This Is Nasty. My YouTube channel's blowing up. My Twitter's blowing up. I absolutely love all these people. I'm just doing what I said. Listen, if you don't got no haters, you ain't popping. And I assume that I have my charisma has rubbed some people the wrong way, and I understand that. But I'm just going to keep doing me because things are going quite well in Alfred land right now. YouTube Pro Wrestling Bits, please.
Looking forward to the next one. Palate cleanser every so often.
CM Punk's got me sweating. Also, it's a heat wave in California, but I like the sweat. Dude. I think it adds to my passion.
Glistening, baby. So yeah, it's crazy. It's hotter in California than it is in Vegas.
Yeah, right now. It's ridiculous, man. We have like regulations where we have to have our power on for only a certain amount of time.
Oh yeah, we're getting told here keep the AC higher than normal because we don't want to we need our grid available for your overflow or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. Weird times. Mia Lee 499 saying I want to see Braun Strowman versus Braun Breaker and who wins. Legato versus the Bloodline. I think Naomi or Tamina should join the Bloodline. Roxy was in her bag tonight. Mako badass. I want to talk about that match. That was a great match that had the unfortunate timing of being on tonight's show.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of tonight's show is going to be forgotten, even right down to the podcast designed to cover it, because we've spent the first 35 minutes talking about CM Punk, and rightfully so. You know, this is a big story. But having said that, this was an enjoyable episode of NXT 2.0.
Bad timing, though. So Braun versus Braun. I mean, look, they didn't bring back Braun Strowman for Braun Breaker. So I guess we should cover that. So Braun Strowman came back to Raw last night. Has there been any word about details of the deal? What does this mean for Control Your Narrative?
I know. I'm very nervous for Control Your Narrative. Very sad times for this thriving promotion. But I think Braun's going to just come back for WWE, and he's going to pick up where he left off as an upper mid-card giant who reaches a certain level. He really was filling a void because WWE had tried their hand with a lot of big guys that were very new, very green, whether it's your Omases, whether it's your Shankies, whether it's your Azizes. They were trying to fill that Braun void and didn't quite get to do that. And it just, him coming back and just running through everybody, you just kind of forget how awesome it was. He was doing it every week, so eventually you just kind of get tired of it and you get it. But it was good to see it, and I think he's much needed. Triple H was teasing that he was going to bring Braun back this past weekend, and I think he's a much needed addition. It's going to be really fun to see what they've got for him.
He must have been making so much to cover wherever Vince McMahon was secretly spending money that he was an attractive cut, because Braun Strowman to me is like the most classic Vince wrestler that we've seen probably in the last 20 years, probably since Brock Lesnar.
He's right up Vince's alley, and Triple H and Vince are very similar in a lot of ways. I would say they're similar in more ways than they are different. And Triple H was gushing over Braun Strowman in an interview with Ariel Helwani of BT Sport, saying that he's a big guy with personality. It's almost as if Triple H is calling out the locker room of what he wants in a giant. The big guy, athletic, personality. Braun Strowman checks all those boxes, and I think he's going to be good in this era. As long as they protect him, he's just going to be a big deal. I was surprised that he was one of the names. Him and Bray Wyatt were the two biggest surprises in terms of people who got fired from WWE.
Yeah. No, I think, Bray, I could understand being a bit of an auteur. I could see a couple circumstances with Bray where they thought, okay, maybe this has run its course. We've gotten the value out of this. He's very much into his vision and what he wants to do, and that certainly doesn't mesh with some of the old guard. But yes, Kelvin Alexander saying easy to forget a show with no Nikita. Where was she?
Living my truth.
So just gone.
Living my truth. Living my truth. Living my truth.
Did you have that queued up before the show, or were you getting
I was like soundboard.
Somebody better ask me about Nikita.
Living my truth.
Missing from the show tonight. I love Nikita Lyons.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't wait to see her back.
I can't wait to see her back. I can't wait to see her as champion. In fact, I'm thinking she's going to crash Mandy's celebration next week. That's where we finally get the pathway for her to be the women's champion. Maybe it's
absolutely
too soon, but she is just always a welcome price, except for that first promo. That first promo is the only negative thing. But and it was just
Living my truth.
it was just that moment.
She wasn't living her truth during that promo.
She was, but we needed, she needed to control her narrative. And and her music is good. Faithy J put out some good songs, but just the fact that in her debut promo, they were like, I'm going to freestyle, I'm going to stun the world. And that was yeah.
Some weak bars in her debut. That's
true. Yeah, not the best bars. So it's the Dark Side of the Ring, the AEW media scrum.
I know BR Live is pissed that they didn't get extra revenue from filming that and putting that on pay-per-view because apparently there are cameras around too. So if they have footage of that, boy, that documentary is going to be a lot.
Saturday night or Sunday night, I was reading the coverage of this. And people were saying well, AEW was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, it's a little extreme, but
then to hear no, people were already speculating that this was a shit show just based on how it went, what TK was saying, what Punk was saying. But then to hear backstage, there was a chair thrown and this is wasn't anybody monitoring social media and being okay, we got to get the Bucks and Kenny out of the building. Everybody let Punk cool. Wasn't anybody saying okay, this is already at an 8. We got to take this down before it goes up to 11.
100%. I'm shocked that they were even in the building to begin with for as long as CM Punk was up there bearing everything. They should have gotten Colt out of there. They should have taken the precautions because on one hand, you could look at this from the machismo standpoint and say it's on site. No, you got to stand up for yourself as a man. You got to catch his hands. I can understand that partially from that standpoint, but also you're running a business. You talk about professional wrestling, and this is a professional wrestling business, and you're working with a lot of partners who are going to be affected, as we are going to see over the next several weeks, all the little different things that are affected from this. Tony Khan and AEW leadership and management needed to mind their P's and Q's as to what was inevitable to happen if you leave all these guys in the same building based on what CM Punk was saying.
Yeah. So NXT tonight. We heard from Tyler Bate. He was Gallus confronted, and wouldn't you know it, they challenged him to a main event, and we got Braun Breaker in the main event. His opponent from Worlds Collide, who he lost to, they were going to team up and take on Gallus. That to me kind of screams filler angle. Bad opening to the show.
Yeah, that's very light. It wasn't really opening with a bang after a pay-per-view. It was just kind of they eased into this show, almost like they knew that they weren't going to be the talk of the town throughout.
I could see they called an audible today because they were just let's hold Nikita off the show. Let's today. Nobody is talking about NXT right now.
If they overshadowed MJF, they're overshadowing NXT 2.0.
Yeah. It's the $2 all the comebacks. Cody still top guy for Reigns. I bought the Braun.
Everything's perfect.
Yeah. Braun will probably, I'm going to say Survivor Series.
Sure. Yeah. It's going to be 7 months of Roman Reigns defending that title and defending it successfully. And everything has to be absolutely at the ideal liking. We have to have perfect conditions before Roman Reigns drops that title. It's not like Kamaru Usman in the exciting UFC where he's not supposed to lose that title. He's dominant. He was dominating Anthony Edwards. Then Anthony Edwards kicked him in the face, dropped the title, and now we're excited and off to the races. No, it's not going to be that with Roman Reigns. 7 months, ladies and gentlemen, of defending that title successfully, and he'll only lose it when it's time.
Yeah. I could see they save Cross for the Rumble, maybe. Do you see more value in Cross or Braun for WWE? I mean, they're both there to keep Roman. They're there to be the top highest level jobbers in the company. And I mean that with all respect, but they're there to lose to Roman Reigns for the time being. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be that way forever. I think they will go on to have championship runs later in the company, but right now WWE is the Roman Reigns show. If they didn't put it on Drew, I mean, I tuned in for some of the Clash of the Castle. That was hotter than probably the last 5 WrestleManias.
You're absolutely right, Glenn. If they didn't put that title on Drew McIntyre in front of a WrestleMania crowd, Kevin Owens is not winning that thing in New Jersey. So it's a 7-month albatross. And I've enjoyed Roman Reigns. I've loved the bloodline. I've loved this storyline and angle. I did think that Drew McIntyre was the right guy to win that title under those circumstances. And based on how they come up. And now that he's lost, it's like, now I know for a fact this fake title is going to stay on Roman Reigns until WrestleMania. So wake me up at WrestleMania when it comes to Roman Reigns. Just wake me up then. I know how this goes. I'm not going to get excited for any of these Roman Reigns title matches because it's rigged. Wake me up at WrestleMania.
It's turned into, you don't go into a Fast and the Furious movie thinking like, oh, I really like this villain. I think they're going to win this time. Like they're there to be like, oh, what a scoundrel. And then Dom and the family are going to. What's that?
Thanos won at the end of was it Endgame that he won?
Yeah, but it was a 2-part movie though. You know. Notifications blowing up tonight on the Twitters, but we'll talk about why in a bit. Oh, we'll talk about it now because Pretty Deadly celebrating their win with Lash Legend. So I just had to go on social media and say, if they do not look, Pretty Deadly are a delight. I love them. I love how they've been, the social media posts they were doing about the titles. But it's like, look, if we don't bring back Breezango for a feud with them, like what's the point? Like the people need to have it happen. I tweeted it. Dango retweeted it. Lots of people retweeted it. We got to make this happen. We have to get Breezango back for Pretty Deadly to officially pass the torch.
I'm going to retweet that stuff right now.
Got to make that right. I mean, Pretty Deadly are similar, but they're unique enough and they're funny. These guys are funny. I want to see them interact with the Fashion Police.
Almost makes too much sense.
Yeah. And with Triple H, this seems like the sort of thing. Yeah. Just all the sense in the world. Got to make it happen. Toxic Attraction was in the ring. They took on Nikki ASH and Doudrop. Even with Doudrop and the bloody nose tonight, like I just want them to walk through a portal and turn into Piper Niven and Nikki Cross so bad. I want that so bad. How is that going to happen? What do we need to do to make that happen?
I think that would be amazing, actually.
I mean, Apollo, sounded like a different person when he came to NXT.
Yeah, and he looks like a different person now with that red eye.
Yes. Yeah, that was an effect, right? Like no one's eye is that bloody for this long.
I think he got poked in the eye and they're just now turning into a storyline. Because that is what happens when you get poked in the eye. It can get red. Maybe you got a scratched cornea.
I mean, I hope he's okay. Like I've had a corneal ulcer before, but my because I look.
Yeah.
He needs get a patch on that ASAP.
He had that Nick Jackson eye.
Yeah. Let's see how we saw that. He was calling out Grayson Waller, but Nikki ASH and Doudrop won this match. They look good. Toxic Attraction though, man, what a story. I guess they're waiting because they were in the tournament. They won their SmackDown debut. There was an injury. They didn't go forward. Now they're back in NXT. Maybe they're waiting until what happens with Mandy after the celebration angle and everything before they move up.
Yeah, very interesting, and clearly two different canons because Doudrop and Nikki Ash, if you saw in the background of Raw last night, I thought it was very well done. They were doing one of those segments where Bayley and Damage Control are walking to the ring, and in the background, you could see Nikki ASH throw her mask at Doudrop and storm off. So I'm sure that'll continue on Raw in terms of their breakup, but no real signs of that here. Although Doudrop did get busted up because JC Jane kicked her right in the face.
I think it added to the match, but that's the thing, man. If this is Piper Niven and Nikki Cross would be a badass force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I think that'd be awesome.
And I think that they could really reinvigorate NXT's women's tags division. And they're I think that they would get a lot more momentum behind them. But they did win this match tonight.
And almost 500 likes inside of an hour for Glenn's tweet asking Breezango to come back and feud with Pretty Deadly. So the streets
got to make it happen. I know. I mean, like it's the most obvious thing, and needs to happen. Especially now that Pretty Deadly are the undisputed, unified NXT tag team champions.
I really think they should have kept the NXT UK belts. I think those might be the prettiest belts in all of WWE. I really love those tag team NXT UK belts. I think they're way superior to the NXT belts, but it's NXT, so they're merging into those.
Yeah. Wesley versus JD McDonough. JD McDonough, based on how the show ended, they are pushing him like crazy.
Hey, shouts to him. Get it how you live. I'm just not feeling it with this guy. And yes, they're going all the way, it seems, with JD McDonough. And it just doesn't click for me.
And this was pre-changeover. So this is something HBK was on board with and the previous powers that be. Because to me, this feels like if you told me Triple H was behind this because he reminded him of Finn Balor for obvious reasons, that would make sense. But I think Braun needs more credible opponents. So I think him beating Wesley tonight was just, stepping stone for yet another Braun Breaker title feud that ends with Braun retaining.
I mean, I hope not, because I don't think there's anything they could do to make Braun versus JD McDonough more interesting, or even make JD McDonough seem like he's going to take the title off of Braun, especially after losing.
Yeah, but
maybe
the
he
problem
goes for the North American title.
Problem is that Braun Breaker's not interesting, and I feel bad saying that, but I've been saying that since day one. And they've yet to prove me wrong.
Not by himself, and they haven't done anything interesting with him. I do think he does have a charisma and a fire and is a good baby face. I just think that he is on the generic side, especially because we don't know too much about him outside of the fact that he's Rick Steiner's son. I think that's kind of the gift and the curse, is that that's all they feel they need to tell us. So there's really no character being cultivated with Braun Breaker.
I think, they need to do more. And what's weird, though, too, is they're not leaning on that nearly as heavily as they have with previous Legacy. Tony D'Angelo had a bit of a coffee bar going on backstage.
Yeah, I like these segments where Tony D'Angelo is trying to get Cameron Grimes to join them. Cameron Grimes, I was saying that quote about if everybody else is in the room is an asshole. Cameron Grimes isn't joining anybody. Maybe he's the jerk in all of this. Like, he doesn't want to join Joe Gacy. He doesn't want to join the GOAT, Tony D'Angelo, which to me, that shows bad judgment. Like, who is Cameron Grimes going to join? He needs to team up with somebody.
But
there you go.
He can join the Brawling Brutes on the main roster. Meiko Satomura versus Roxanne Perez. This is the best match Roxanne Perez has ever had.
Easily.
And this was a great match, but this match is the epitome of what Triple H's vision, not the original 2012 NXT Seth Rollins first champ vision. This was Triple H's vision for NXT of this is why you bring in more experienced wrestlers to pair them with younger talents to give them matches like we saw tonight. If you want to know what the blueprint, to borrow a phrase from Matt Morgan, what the blueprint is for NXT, and I think it will continue to be now and realign under Triple H and HBK, it is to bring in experienced talents. They're going to go on and put on amazing matches with younger talents, get them over in the process, teach them how to work better, and turn them into the next generation of superstars. Like, this was a phenomenal match, and even without winning, even though Meiko Satomura won, thought Roxanne Perez got over majorly tonight. This was an A+ example of what NXT should be.
It really is, especially because Roxanne Perez is somebody who's getting there. It's not like she's green. She knows what she's doing. Of the NXT 2.0 era, where Vince was in charge those last few months, this was one of the more experienced people in terms of Roxanne Perez in that crop of women. But she's still on the younger side. She's still somebody who hasn't been in the business for very long. And Meiko Satomura is a perfect opponent for her. I thought she was phenomenal in that three-way this past weekend, and she was really good here again. And it's great to see them work together, and it looks like they're going to be in some sort of tag team, maybe alliance. But Roxanne Perez can really stand to benefit from Meiko Satomura because Roxanne Perez is already very good, and I think Meiko Satomura working with her is only going to make her great.
This match would be all anybody was talking about if it was on a slow news week.
Yeah, we'd be buzzing about this. This would be a big part of the show. I think we'd be talking about how good this match was, but obviously, I thought Cora was good too throughout. In terms of Cora, being jealous, she's kind of developing.
Cora as a heel, and I mean this in such a complimentary way. Cora being a heel, and what Cora Jade has been doing, it has given her a level of maturity and gravitas because they had her playing very aw shucks babyface, and that made her seem like young and immature in a way that you almost didn't take her seriously in the ring. Mm-hmm. But I think that right now she's getting her stature, she's getting her swagger, her attacking after. Now I want to see what happens next with Cora and Roxanne.
Yeah, and that was always a problem with this feud, is that they didn't give us enough time to invest in them as friends. They just immediately went into them being rivals. And the longer it goes, hopefully, the more chemistry they're going to be able to develop as opponents.
Yeah, and I think when Cora first turned heel, like you took her about as seriously as you did like Avril Lavigne's punk phase with Skater Boy. But now she's like later era Avril Lavigne or her doppelganger that replaced her.
Yeah, I was gonna say the dead one, the alive one. Which Avril Lavigne are we talking about?
That "Bite Me" song. Have you heard one of her recent singles?
I've heard "Bite Me."
Yeah, "Bite Me." That's a banger. That's a jam.
Yeah,
that's good. Like, and it's weird because Avril, you think like, oh, isn't she doing the same thing she was doing 20 years ago? Like, yeah, pretty much, but like on a new level.
Yeah.
And it works. It absolutely
to a different
works.
audience. Yeah, and people are now reintroduced to Avril Lavigne. She was like the number one, I would say, for a little bit, for just a short period of time. She was at the top in terms of pop artists.
Oh, it's like after Canadian songs for Anne Murray and Celine Dion, like and Sarah McLachlan, like she's on the Mount Rushmore of Canadian female vocalists.
Is Alanis Morissette Canadian?
Oh, that's right. So I guess we need a fifth slate. Who we bumped? We bump Anne Murray or Celine?
We bump Anne Murray. I'm sorry.
Oh, have you heard Danny's song? Like,
I have. Anne Murray. She's up there. She's a goat in terms of Canadian female artists.
Oh, this is tough. Who does she take out? Yeah, we have to keep Alanis. Maybe Sarah McLachlan. Maybe Sarah goes.
I think Sarah McLachlan has to stay. She's got to stay. She's taking care of too many dogs to just get thrown off of Mount Rushmore.
Oh, this is tough now. Avril, you got to chisel that fifth spot on the Canadian Mount Rushmore. That's a good point. So Ricochet. Oh, Damon Kemp is tearing down Diamond Mine from the inside. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, they really did a lot with Damon Kemp doing this long promo about what he did. He tried. It wasn't the worst. It's just I don't think he's in a position to be cutting these long promos. I will say he does look quite fine in the ring. I think he's fine in the ring. I think his promo is okay. He just needs a little work, which is fine to a lot of people who do. But he delivered his lines just fine. It's just he needs more energy and passion behind it. I will say, Gable Stevenson's now been in WWE for what, a year now? He's been training, and I believe his little brother Damon Kemp has been doing that for much less. And I'm now asking, where is Gable Stevenson? How come we haven't seen him yet? If Damon's already on his heel run, like we've already seen babyface and heel Damon Kemp. He's already been in a group and done all this stuff. Shouldn't Gable Stevenson be ready to at least come out and start doing some angles?
Yeah. Diamond Mine, Diamond Mine has been like a cursed faction. Like this is like I cannot dissolve soon enough. Ricochet versus Trick Williams. Ricochet getting that NXT pop and getting this win tonight. What did you think of this with Carmelo on commentary?
That was good. I thought Carmelo on commentary was a highlight. I loved Carmelo talking trash, and as Trick Williams was hitting his head against the table, another one. So this is good. I thought this was a good segment. And Ricochet, I hope, doesn't stay in NXT. I don't think he will. I think he's going back to the main roster. Just had to get his win back, had to get his heat back before resuming his push on SmackDown. But I loved Ricochet versus Carmelo Hayes. I thought that was one of the best matches of the weekend. I thought that was just an incredible storytelling match and a match with a bunch of spots. And it was good to see. I don't know if they're going to continue that, but I really do want to see Ricochet back on the main roster because he was really getting a push on SmackDown, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, push right into Gunther's boot.
Well, yes, that was the last thing. But the last couple of months, especially since Triple H took over, he's stayed away from Gunther. He's been beating Baron or Happy Corbin, and hopefully he moves on and he's beating other people and he's able to slowly rise up the ranks.
Nathan Frazier versus Axiom in the first of a best of 3 series. Are you on the edge of your seat for this with Axiom getting the win in the first of the best of 3?
Not particularly. This depends too much on the audience knowing that they used to be tag team partners in NXT UK, which, I mean, not a lot of people watching in the building know that. Not a lot of people watching on TV know that. But they're two good workers, and they're having a time. And this really was what I consider an applause baiting match, where they kept doing those stalemate spots where they're flipping, they're jumping, they're flipping, they're jumping, and then they stand there and they do their pose, and they're getting the applauses. So this is fine. I like that they're at least doing a best of 3 series. It's something different that you don't see in WWE too much.
Yeah, Axiom looks cool.
Yeah, it's a nice mask. There's a wrestler. I can't remember who it was. He's an indie wrestler who has a very similar mask who's very upset. And he's claiming gimmick infringement on Axiom.
Wow. Another promo for the Super Diva, Quincy Elliott, coming next week.
got to get another gimmick, man. You can't go around with Phil Brooks in this business. You can't go around calling yourself the Super Diva. That's like calling yourself the Oscar slapper. That's Will Smith.
We've had wrestlers that we won't talk about that had that Prince energy. And I think Quincy has got that PM Dawn energy.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And I'm here for it.
I'm here. I love Quincy Elliott. I hope they push this thing to the moon. I think they're doing a good job with these vignettes. I think Quincy Elliott is a star and is going to have great promos. It's just there's only one super diva in all of pro wrestling, and that's Phil Brooks. That's T.O. Punk.
He's been getting great reactions on Level Up. So
yeah, I saw a couple of matches. I've seen clips. It just kind of, it's like you can't take your eyes off Quincy Elliott because I'll see clips. Yeah, and I'm like, what is going on with this? But with them, I think they're they. But I want Quincy Elliott to be like a focal part and not just a joke. I think there's a lot they could do with Quincy Elliott. I hope it's not just some manager or something.
That's one. I mean, he's one of those performers where it's like my wife puts down the phone and just like wants to talk, like ask questions, like who is this guy? Looks really cool. Like, yeah, I think Quincy is going to be a breakout star in NXT.
Yeah, 100%. Wait, somebody said Quincy Elliott is not Saucy Santana. That's just a joke, right? There's no. Okay. I think they're just pulling our leg.
I never know what the chat.
Saucy Santana would be dope in wrestling, though, by the way.
No, I think Quincy will be good. Braun Breaker and Tyler Bate versus Gallus. Were you on the edge of your seat for this match?
Because I was about to get up and leave to go do this podcast. So yes, I was at some point on the edge of my seat.
This was one where when this started, I was like, the show's ending. The show's not going over tonight. This is good. This is going to be done by 7 sharp.
This was fine. I like the shout out to the Steiners. They did the Steiner Brothers spot where they're barking. Tyler Bate, I think, is so much more over than maybe they even expected, because at that Worlds Collide main event, they were really behind Tyler Bate to the point where they were booing Braun Breaker. He even got booed tonight, and I just think Tyler Bate, they've got something in Tyler Bate, obviously. That it's not breaking new grounds, but he's going to be the focal point of NXT Europe, it seems. But I think Tyler Bate needs to stay behind and just be a star in NXT.
Yeah. I mean, Breaker and Tyler are winning tonight, but then JD McDonough running down and attacking Bate. So I don't know. Maybe JD feuds with Bate, maybe feuds with Breaker. Who knows? But yeah, this was very ending to the show.
It's whatever. Like, it was just your garden variety tag team match. They're really building up for next week, Taboo Tuesday, where they're going to have some votes and people are going to get to vote on whoever.
Is it every match or just Carmelo Hayes?
No, I think it's every match is going to have the fans vote, because they showed a couple where they said that people could vote on it, whether it's stipulations. I think they're going to vote on Cameron Grimes' tag team partner even.
Ooh. Yeah, but the chances, the options are never like anybody. You know?
They try to zero it in to where it's essentially the same thing, or it's it's done in a way where they stack the deck against somebody, Like, is it going to be Jeff Hardy, or is it going to be Pretty Deadly?
Kelvin R. Alexander, Saul Ruka is debuting soon. She's like a taller Tiffany Stratton. You'll love her. She had a promo tonight as well.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That's a tall glass of water to fill as being the next Tiffany Stratton, because
maybe she'll go on to face our girl.
Living my truth.
Hey. I don't think anybody can live their truth like Nikita Lyons. So if that's her goal, is to live her truth, Nikita's already got that covered. So
when she's not on TV, it's notable. I think next week, I really want her to attack Mandy during the celebration.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Let me tell you this though about Nikita Lyons. And this is a credit to her, and this is the reason why I think they need to give her something major. What other stars do we see week in and week out here in the chat or on Twitter where somebody's complaining in NXT that they weren't on that week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can find that a lot of places.
No, but like notably.
Yeah, Nikita Lyons is somebody where her presence, and they've done a good job building around her to where she is one of the stars or pillars, if you will, of NXT 2.0. And when she's not there, people will notice. And I'm sure she'll be back. better than ever. And I do see her being the next champion. We might be in the final days of Mandy Rose being world champion.
Yeah, it's time. So on that note, everybody, follow Alfred at This Is Nasty. Stay tuned to Pro Wrestling Bits because I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve with all this AEW drama. Follow me at Glenn Rubenstein. Retweet. Let's get the Fashion Police back. Let's get Brazongo back. Make it happen. We don't ask for much from Papa H, but let's make this happen. We'll be back here on Friday, but tomorrow night, tune in for what I'm sure will be an eventful Wednesday night Dynamite on the AEWs. And the coverage after Friday, I think Issa will be back. And we're going to have Braun Strowman. We're going to have, who else? Friday, Solo Sikoa.
Solo Sikoa is going to make his debut. That should be some fun.
We will have, I'm sure. And yeah, we will catch you all next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast, everybody. Take care. Have a good week.
I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.